All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Oh, thank you all. It is a very exciting day. It is Albert's birthday today, everyone.
What?
I know.
Albert, thank you.
Albert is who I'm talking about. Albert. Albert, you seem ageless to me, but it's very exciting to have another trip around the sun. I'm not asking you to tell us how old you are, but I will tell you that somehow the word of your birthday leaked out, and the only reason that I even know about it, I'm embarrassed to say, but I like to, I lead openly with my embarrassment and my humiliation. I see it in the chat. I see it all over the chat.
I also saw it in the chat, and I was very impressed.
How did the people in the chat, and I will give them mad-ass credit, people like Allison Blake, who says, happy birthday, Albert, and his sunny good morning to the Remarkables, Mark Thompson Show fans. Happy birthday, Albert. I think Tanith Rowe was the first one in with a birthday wish to you this morning, Albert.
Yeah, I thought that was the first one I saw. So
now, you don't know these people personally.
Yeah.
You're not putting out some newsletter that has your birthday information on it. I'm astounded by this. Really am. Quite impressed. Tanith Rowe and Allison and all those who have recognized Albert's great birthday. Kim has memorialized it on this day with this with her balloon background.
There's never been anything like this.
Yes, it's quite extraordinary. So,
Kim, how are you?
Anyway, Albert, quite lovely.
Albert, thank you.
You are our birthday guy, and you're working on your birthday. I love working on my birthday. I think there's nothing like working on your birthday. It's great to be making a little money on your birthday. Jim Slayton, a $5 super chat saying, happy birthday, Albert. And Albert has, what? Help me with that, Albert. What is that? Albert has, thank you?
Yeah. I'll take it.
Okay, there you go. All right.
Albert, thank you.
But I found, everyone's saying happy birthday on Albert's Facebook page. I found a picture of baby Albert.
Uh-oh.
So cute. Is that Barney?
Yeah.
He is a very cute kid.
That's
how cute is baby Albert?
Me epitomized in a Dan Marino jersey and a Barney at the same time. I was conflicted. I loved only two things in the world: sports and Barney. Yeah.
I love
you are
that.
The cutest.
I love that you were a Marino fan. Great.
I loved football in general. I had a Brett Favre. And my parents encouraged it. So shout out them. I loved it.
Very, very cute.
He is,
very cute kid.
Adorable.
He's grown up to be a cute adult. We didn't know it was your birthday, but now that we know, in the rich tradition of this show,
You get nothing.
you get nothing special.
Got the balloons,
Exactly. Yeah, balloons. And then after the show, my demands to get the breakout videos done and to not to screw up the podcast. I know you're on your way to some birthday party, but let's try to stay focused. So,
look
Albert,
at
this in Tagalog, is that Tagalog?
Yeah, it's in Tagalog. It's a very traditional way of saying it. But thank you, Trevor.
Trevor Star in Hollywood. Albert will read it so that I don't.
Maligayang Kaarawan from
Wow.
Trevor
Wow,
Star.
very impressive. Yes, nicely done, Albert. And nicely done, Trevor. Very smart audience we have. Speaking of which, I got some emails. I think
I've received a lot of positive letters.
Let me take a look at the email. And I got an email from Australia, didn't I, Kim?
You did get an email from Australia. They said they can't believe the healthcare system here. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they were talking about the fact that in Australia, there are none of the charges for healthcare that we have here. And I'm looking for it now.
What the hell is going on in the United States of America?
Exactly.
I'll put it right at the top. Hold on, here it is.
Oh, thank you.
It's a coming.
The fact that most of the world has a better healthcare system than do we, that doesn't mean that you aren't capable of getting some of the greatest, if not the greatest healthcare here, if you have money. But access to healthcare here is certainly something that is limited if you don't have money. And hello, Mark. This is again from our pal in Australia. Donald Trump is a great source of amusement in Australia. It's sad to think Americans don't elect people that won't give you cheap medicines. As a pensioner here, I pay no more than $5 US for a prescription. Healthcare is free. Yeah. Hearing that you could go bankrupt if you have a health problem is insane. Your large corporations rip you off. I can buy an unbranded iPhone here in Australia from China for about $100 US, he says. Doesn't have all the apps, but a lot of the apps for them are free. Cloud storage is free, up to several gigabytes. Your political system is rigged, so super wealthy people get to have their say only. We have compulsory voting here. By the way, I'm not a fan of compulsory voting, but it's a longer conversation. You shouldn't be forced to vote. You don't want to vote? Don't vote. But you shouldn't be prevented from voting. And voting should be made very, very easy. Your political system is rigged, so super wealthy people, we have compulsory voting here, and donations are restricted with more restrictions to come. Even if you are incompetent, you could be elected sheriff, judge, etc. Masked ICE agents would not be tolerated in Australia. America is headed toward fascism. Love your show. And P.S. Fox News here is considered a propaganda channel as well. Yeah.
So I mean, all that is true, but what I heard there is complaint about America and how great Australia is, which is probably true, but is there anything wrong with Australia? Because I don't think that's a balanced email. Like, you suck and we're great. That's what it sounds like.
No, I think, to be fair to him, he's agreeing with a lot of the various things that we talk about here on the show. We talk about healthcare. We talk about access to voting. We talk about the problems with our political system awash in money and how that's essentially corrupted the system. We talk about Trump, and he's speaking about the fact that they view Trump as both a joke and also as an authoritarian figure rising toward a fascism. I guess I read the note as a way of him saying, yeah, we know, we're watching you from over here, and we agree with a lot of what you guys say on your show. And by the way, here in Australia, these things are different, and that's a sign of life better. He's not saying everything's great in Australia. I really didn't get that from him. But yeah. Would you like to apologize?
I would like to apologize.
Would you like to apologize for what you've done?
Yeah.
I think I've started off the show being a little too critical and judgy today.
Yeah. I just, I mean, we expect you to be critical and judgy, but I thought that was a little harsh. Yeah, I don't think he was.
One step over the line.
Yeah, I mean, I think, honestly, when you read an email like that, you see how others in other countries that feel, in a way, bonded to us, bonded by language, bonded by cultural similarities, are lamenting the fact that America has slid into this place. I think he's actually sharing our pain in a way. And I'm not just rationalizing it. I'm seeing that from more and more of my friends who are living in different countries and sort of have an international perspective. They're seeing a real radical change in America, and they're kind of saying, yeah, this is really awful. You guys are getting farther away from a system of equality than we thought you'd ever, we never thought you'd drift this far. Oh my God, Harry Magnan says, I'm here at 7 minutes after, and you started? How dare you start on time without telling me? I know, Harry. Thank you for the super chat. Yeah, we tried to get the show off on time today. In the kind of bizarro but yet relevant category, I'm going to get to, just to give you a sense of things, the tariffs, these chaotic, ridiculous tariffs that have no basic sound economic underpinnings, hatched by a president who doesn't understand the economy. He only understands publicity and the media machine, and clearly that's way more than you need to know to become president. You just need charisma sometimes. It would appear in this case. I mean, I wouldn't consider Joe Biden a charismatic figure, but he rose from the ashes of a Trump administration everyone had become disaffected with. But Trump, too, brings same deal, charisma, and an ability to ride the media machine and the propaganda machine of Fox News Channel and the, what do they call it, the manosphere, the bro-down podcast world. He rode that into the White House with flim-flam. I mean, it really was a con. talking about all this. And these guys were conned, and they even say it. Joe Rogan says it. I can't believe I was taken in. I can't believe I believed it. I mean, I can't either, man. It was the clunkiest con I'd ever seen. You'd already lived through it once. Anyway, I mention it because the tariffs do go into effect today. And again, they're not underpinned by sort of any kind of sound economic strategy. We'll talk about it in hour 2. Markets reacting, plans for the future. We'll get to all of that in hour 2. Bottom of this hour, in just a few minutes, Liz Oyer joins us. She is a former U.S. pardon attorney. Her story is great. She's brilliant, and she does a wonderful job of explaining so many legal issues that are confronting the U.S. government right now and the American people, as it's put the American people in large measure and chunks of the American people, Democrats, those who consider themselves dissenting voices, those who speak out for Palestinian rights, those who are academics, those who work in the law but don't fall into the GOP camp. All of them now are on adversarial footing with this government and this administration. So Liz Oyer, I think, explains that really well. But where it's really interesting, because she's the former U.S. pardon attorney, is with a pardon hatching potentially for who? Ghislaine Maxwell. There's clearly a deal in the works. I mean, you send Todd Blanche, your personal attorney, now he's number 2 of justice, you send him down to meet with Ghislaine Maxwell, then she's moved to a minimum security prison, a club fed where they don't allow any inmates who have any kind of convictions around a child molestation and sexual
assault.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always trying to dance around it. I mean, it's really gross what this woman was convicted of, not accused of, convicted of. And so Ghislaine Maxwell has moved. It's unprecedented. And now you've seen at that prison, they've had to up security around her, so we're paying more federal dollars to move her there. That was a huge bone thrown to her, a huge favor. Why? Something in that back and forth, something in this negotiation that's been ongoing with Ghislaine Maxwell is designed to exonerate President Trump, to somehow wipe the stench of Jeffrey Epstein off of him. That's the whole game. And so Liz Oyer can speak to what will be the likely outcome and the very real potential that Ghislaine Maxwell will get a pardon at the end of the Trump term.
You know what's crazy about what you just said is Trump is claiming, yesterday he said this, that he had not been briefed about what Blanche and Maxwell spoke about in their meetings. He says he has no idea why she was moved to a minimum security prison camp in Texas from a federal prison in Florida. Do you really think this micromanaging guy was not briefed on what went down in those 2 conversations and has zero idea why she was moved to a prison camp? No, it's unbelievable.
Well, I mean, you can speak to how micromanaging he is, right? You were talking to me off the air about the fact that there was a firing at the FBI over the reluctance to release information about FBI agents who are investigating J6ers and protesters there. Isn't that right, Kim?
That is correct. The former acting head of the FBI, his name is Brian Driscoll. They called him the Driz. He was dragging his feet, would not pass over information about the names of agents who participated in the January 6th investigations, would not give that information to Trump. And so he's fired. Now, we don't know if that's specifically the reason, but we do know that he served as acting director of the FBI in the first weeks of the Trump administration, and he'd resisted the demands to pass over the details on the agents who, again, participated in the January 6th investigation. So his final day on the job is Friday, and they're not really talking about why he's been fired, but he's out. He's outie.
Mad respect to him for standing up. So many are not. And I understand so many are not because they have kids, they have spouses, they have families, they have livelihoods that they're trying to protect. But what's happening is a real abomination. I mean, some people have to stand up, and clearly he did, but it cost him his
Cost him its job. And here's the sucky part of that is because of this retribution, we're losing a really valuable person who could provide security to America. Listen to this guy's history. He's been at the FBI for more than 20 years, international counterterrorism investigations. He's worked in New York. He commanded the Bureau's hostage rescue team, served as the acting director in charge of Critical Incident Response Group, which deploys manpower and resources to crisis situations, was named acting director. I mean, this guy is no snooze. He's the real deal. Yeah. And so you get someone who has this much experience and could help America in this way and at a federal agency like the FBI, and he's out because Trump is sad that he didn't get the list of agents. Come on, what's really good for America here? Because it's not what happened.
Well, it's not what's good for America anymore. And Trump really has claimed ownership of America, and he owns these agencies. He's put loyalists in. We talked about it a bit yesterday and the day before. And the thing that you're suggesting here is something that I've mentioned as well, which is you have you're talking about how you're giving up the kind of great service and a brilliant public servant when you fire this guy because he won't give you the J6 FBI connection. But the reality is you're doing that across the board. You're getting rid of everyone of competence and you're replacing them with loyalists. And you see it, I suppose, you can spin the wheel. You can go Kash Patel, who couldn't find the bathroom at the FBI before he got the job. Tulsi Gabbard, who's head of the intelligence community, and she's also, goose-stepping to whatever Trump wants. And of course, Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth, who's a total incompetent and has proven his incompetence in the private sector and has been thrown out of charities associated with veterans work, and now he's running the Pentagon. And all he is a pretty face, and all he does is shoot videos. He's absolutely of no value when it comes to what you're talking about, which is America. But he's of value to Trump because he'll go out there and sing from the same hymnal that Pam Bondi is singing from. And that's another example. So, yeah, it's just a shame. It's yet another example of losing a great public servant in the case of the example that you are providing, the one that's most contemporary. And, that guy will be replaced with some loyalist.
We're getting rid of the people who do the real work in America.
I'm wanting also to note that ICE has picked up a high-profile agent, Dean Cain, who played Superman, has announced that was the TV show Lois and Clark.
Yeah.
He is signed up to join U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, in order to support Donald Trump. The federal law enforcement agency now aggressively ramping up immigration raids, as you know, since the president has returned to the White House. And speaking on Fox News, which is where all the loyalists go to make their big announcements about how much they love the president and his agenda, Dean Cain said that he decided to join ICE after sharing one of their recruitment videos on his Instagram account. I'm actually a sworn deputy sheriff, Dean Cain said, and a reserve police officer. I wasn't part of ICE, but once I put that out there, and you put a little blurb on your show, he was talking to Jesse Waters, it went crazy, Dean Cain said. So now I've spoken with some officials over at ICE, and I will be sworn in as an ICE agent ASAP, he said to Jesse Waters. Asked what inspired him to join, Cain said, this country was built on patriots stepping up, whether it was popular or not, and doing the right thing. I truly believe this is the right thing. He added, we have a broken immigration system. Congress needs to fix it. But in the interim, President Trump ran on this. He is delivering on this. This is what people voted for. This is what I voted for. And he's going to see it through, and I'll do my part to make sure it happens. That's the former Lois and Clark star, Dean Cain.
Truth, justice, and the American way. I wonder if he's going to wear a Superman suit and a mask covering his face to arrest people.
I mean, he called the latest Superman film woke after James Gunn, the director of Superman, called Superman an immigrant. How woke is Hollywood going to make this character, is what Dean Cain said.
He was good as Superman, and then he did a few Hallmark movies, and he hasn't done much else. So, and he just moved to Nevada, and maybe he's so MAGA that Hollywood can't handle it. But maybe he needs the money because he can't get hired for movies now.
Well, here's the story with Dean Cain and ICE agents generally. You know, you get a $50,000 bonus if you come out of law enforcement. They have a lot of money. You know, they got $45 billion just turbocharging their ICE budget. And so they're offering all of these great incentives. They'll pay for your college education. All of the things that you would associate sort of with military service, they are now folding into becoming an ICE agent. Plus, it's much better money, $50,000 signing bonus. So you've got Dean Cain. We've got a picture of him here. He's put on some weight, as all of us do maybe as we get a little bit older. He's not quite as super as he used to be. He's more man than Superman. And as you said, Kim, he's been doing a lot of Hallmark movies. He did like, it's pretty actually entertaining to look at the movies. He did like 5 Christmas movies for Hallmark. Yeah,
sure.
So I was saying to my friends who are really connected to show business, I was saying to them last night when the story broke, I said, gosh, I just can't believe he needs the money. I mean, he's got to have tens of millions of dollars or at least 10 million or whatever it is. I can't believe that, he doesn't need a $50,000. And they said, he doesn't have any money.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's true or not, but I think, well, look at all these Hallmark movies that he's doing. And they said, those Hallmark movies don't pay anything. Those Hallmark movies they pay so little. The overall budget for one of those Hallmark movies may be $400,000.
Oh.
So think about it. They've got that whole crew, all the other stars. So how much did Dean Cain make? Because I'm trying to explain in my mind. I mean, are you that big a zealot, Dean Cain, that you have to, you want to roast these people who are in this country and working to support their families? I mean, they're working in jobs that are completely innocuous and completely help the economy. Everything, we talked about it before. Healthcare, childcare, agriculture, slaughterhouses. I mean, these are not places that are doing any harm to the economy. And I might also mention these are not violent criminals. They're not connected to gangs. This is none of what Donald Trump promised. So anyway, I'm over Dean Cain, and good luck with your career as an ICE agent. And speaking of ICE pulled this game in Los Angeles. They have federal agents using a Penske truck, a rental truck, in this immigration raid. Well, Mark, it's a great plan. What the immigration raid was? Are these the M16 guys or M15 guys or the gang guys or the trace whatever they are? These are the violent, angry criminals that are here to destroy America? No. They're day workers at a Home Depot in Westlake, which is a suburb of Los Angeles. Federal agents using a Penske rental truck during an immigration raid at Home Depot took several people into custody yesterday. The immigration raid happened just before 7 a.m. as they're there lining up, trying to get work. The Department of Homeland Security not confirming how many people were taken. They blocked off a portion of the parking lot, started indiscriminately grabbing whoever they could, said one witness.
Wow.
They took people out here trying to make money and trying to survive and trying to work and take care of themselves, the witness said. One of the people who was taken is the sister of a street vendor who was helping her set up a food stand in the morning. That street vendor said that the agents ran over to them, but only took the sister. She added that her sister has been in the country for 13 years and has children and has never had any problems with law enforcement. A witness said that he was waiting for someone to load his truck at the Home Depot when he saw the moving van pull up, and that's when some people looking for work approached him. We were right there talking, and after that, it just happened so fast. They opened the back and everybody started running. The video is wild. We're showing it to you now. All these, I guess these are ICE agents. It says police on their uniforms. Of course, they're all masked. And they pour out of the truck like it's some great operation. The reality is it's a It's a total waste of time and money. So you go after day workers at Home Depot? You ought to be ashamed of yourselves. No wonder you wear masks. You're despicable. So just hang out, wait for Dean Cain to join you. I'm sure he won't wear a mask. He'll be covered by media, and that's the idea. The way Kristi Noem has carpet bombed television and radio with all these spots. Look at us, look at all these illegals that we've got in here. We're doing the work that you put us here in Washington to do. It's just awful. It really is. Chaplain Fred says, hi, Mark and Kim, that was so illegal by ICE. Penske should sue ICE as well as the people who got arrested. It was so humiliating. I don't know if it's illegal, honestly. I mean, you can rent a Penske truck and, it's part of a federal operation, or I don't know that it's illegal, but I can certainly understand your outrage, and thank you for the super chat, Chaplain Fred. I did get some good news, and before I get to our distinguished guest bottom of the hour, I wanted to...
The Mark Thompson Show.
I got good news about a millionaire trophy hunter gored to death on safari. I love it. A millionaire big game. Mark, how can you say that? That's so heartless. If you think stalking big game and going after big game on safari because you paid all this money, if you think that is something that should be celebrated with any kind of legitimacy, then you and I just disagree. I'm glad this guy lost his life. I said it there. A millionaire big game hunter has been killed by a buffalo that he was stalking while on safari in South Africa. Asher Watkins, 52, of Dallas, Texas, struck and gored by the charging Cape buffalo on Sunday. Killed him instantly. Watkins frequently shares photos. Can you see them, Albert? I don't know if you can get access to that article. I want to see them.
Yikes.
Yeah. He shares photos of birds and animals that he's killed on social media. He holds up these huge cats that he has killed.
That's like the Trump brothers did too, right? You have their pictures of them in Africa holding up these animals.
It's horrible. Mm-hmm. It's with deep sadness and heavy hearts we confirm the tragic death of our client and friend, Asher Watkins, said Hunter Hans Vermaak, who is the spokesman for the Vermaak Safari. This is a devastating incident, and our hearts go out to his loved ones. Well, it is sad. There's one sad part of this millionaire trophy hunter being gored to death by buffalo on safari. It's sad that he can't come back to life every day and be gored all over again.
Wow.
There, I said it. He is dung to me. He is slime. He is scum. And he got karma in the moment.
Isn't that part of the whole, I don't know, appeal of this to people, is the adrenaline rush and the danger that is brought by these hunts, and that, it's you against the animal. Well, if you're putting yourself in that situation, there's a real chance that you might not come out of it. So
it's not really you against the animal when you've got guns and you've got all these, you get telemetry, and you've got all these ways you can track. Mm-hmm. This isn't a fair fight. A lot of these guys go over there, these billionaire professionals, they come out of the world of medicine. You know about the dentist from Minnesota, remember him?
Right. Yeah.
He tracked a lion in a restricted area and killed the lion, and then dragged the lion to an area that was unrestricted so that he wouldn't get nailed for having killed the lion in the restricted area. Mm. These are not good people.
No.
So, sorry, but glad he's gone. Now, I'm sure I'll take a little abuse for that.
On that note.
That run. All right.
The Mark Thompson Show.
We are moving on. Yes, thank you very much. All right. This is a wonderful crew. I love being here. It is Albert's birthday, and you'll tell me when Liz Oyer gets here, I think. Oh, is she here now? Okay, good. Boy, Liz Oyer here just in the nick of time. Yeah. You know, I'm so impressed with our next guest. Just very, very difficult to oftentimes navigate all of the different, I'd say, fire hose of legal issues confronting America and confronting us as Americans. And the way that this administration has gone in and turned the law on its side, weaponized the DOJ. You're seeing the way in which the DOJ is increasingly doing the work of the president, but not for the American people, for the president himself. I mean, the most recent example is Todd Blanche, number 2 at Justice, going down and meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell. Then she's transferred to this minimum security facility, and it would appear that there's a deal in the works. So it is so exciting to welcome in our next guest. She joins us, I don't know where Liz Oyer is. I think she's in Washington, I presume. She served in the Department of Justice as the U.S. Pardon Attorney, and she was overseeing the Office of the Pardon Attorney there. And her backstory is fascinating. I'll get into it a little bit in a moment, but I love the reducto she does on so many complex legal issues. Please welcome Liz Oyer, everyone. Hello.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for having me on your show.
Oh, we're very excited to have you here. And boy, this is your moment. First of all, do you mind if I spend a beat on why you left justice? It's amazing, really. Sure. The story of Mel Gibson is my recollection, right?
Yes.
You're dealing regularly as the U.S. Pardon Attorney with all of these different requests for clemency and restoration of certain rights, like gun rights. Isn't that what the Mel Gibson thing was about?
That's what that was about, which I'll note is not typically what the pardon attorney does, but that's what was going on at the beginning of this administration.
And so they wanted the restoration of Mel Gibson's gun rights, and you were pushing back on that, or just questioning as to why are we doing this?
That's right. I was being asked to make a recommendation that he should get his gun rights back. He lost his right to own a firearm when he was convicted of domestic violence.
And that was enough to create an adversarial relationship between you and the administration?
Well, Mel Gibson is apparently a friend of Donald Trump, and Trump made him an ambassador to Hollywood at the beginning of his administration. And Mel Gibson's attorneys wrote a letter to the Justice Department saying he's a friend of Donald Trump. He wants to buy a gun. He's not able to do so legally because of this criminal conviction. Please restore his gun rights. And it was told to me that I should make that recommendation to restore his gun rights, and I wasn't able to do that. Nobody told me why I was fired, but I was fired just a few hours after I communicated to the leadership of the Justice Department that I was not going to be able to recommend that Mel Gibson get his gun rights back.
You didn't feel that all ambassadors from Hollywood should have a gun, Liz?
You know, domestic violence is a really serious issue, and there's a lot of data out there that shows that domestic abusers are much more dangerous to their victims when they're armed. So from my perspective, this was a pure public safety issue, and the fact of his relationship with the president, the fact that he'd made a number of famous movies, which were cited in this letter from his attorneys, did not move the needle away from the core issue, which is that it's dangerous for people with domestic violence histories to own guns. So on that basis, I couldn't make that recommendation despite his relationship with the president. And a few hours later, I was escorted out of my office by security.
It's from that sound legal perspective that you bring so much of your analysis. And before we get to the analysis of what's happening with Ghislaine Maxwell and the potential pardon, which seems to me clearly in the pipeline, tell me about the culture of the Justice Department and what you experienced. You really brought it to life when you said, you know, they escorted me out of the building. There's a certain almost brutality to a lot of this now that I think is deliberate.
Yeah, it's a very different culture than it was just 6 months ago. I was a career employee, meaning that the intent was that I would serve under any president, and the majority of the workforce in the Justice Department, they're people who are career employees, people who've served under all different administrations, and they're valued for their expertise. So typically the political leadership would rely heavily on the career experts because they're the ones who can tell them, this is dangerous, this is a good idea, this is a bad idea, here are where the fault lines lie. But this administration very quickly made clear that they were not interested in that type of independent expertise. They came into office with a political agenda. The agenda is being pushed down from the White House. It doesn't seem like the Attorney General has her own agenda. It seems like she is there for the sole purpose of executing the president's political agenda. And anybody who provides advice or takes positions that stand in the way of accomplishing those political objectives is not wanted. Those people are very quickly marginalized, either reassigned or fired. And that's what happened in my case. I'm not alone. There are a huge number of career experts who have been sidelined through reassignment or firing since this administration started. And it has created a very dangerous environment within the Department of Justice where the people who remain are afraid to speak up and decisions are being made about serious matters of public safety without the benefit of knowledgeable experts.
When the wave of pardons came through for all the J6ers, wasn't that the warning shot?
That was the very first day of the Trump administration. And I, the pardon attorney who would ordinarily be involved in that process, learned about it through a news alert on my phone, like most other Americans, did not even have a heads up that that was coming. And that made clear from day one that my office was not going to be involved as an independent authority on clemency. The decisions were going to be made out of the White House based on political considerations. And
just for us lay people, once there's a pardon, once clemency has been granted, it's irreversible.
That's right. Yep. There's no way to undo a grant of clemency once the president decides to issue it. So all of those January 6th pardons, they're final. And what's really striking about that group of pardons is that quite a few of those folks who benefited from them have already gone back to prison for other crimes. There are some folks who've committed very serious crimes involving sexual exploitation of children, one who engaged in a plot to attempt to murder several dozen law enforcement agents who are investigating him, people with all manner of weapons violations, a woman who was convicted of manslaughter when she was driving drunk. I mean, very serious types of offenses that some of these January 6th pardon recipients have already committed that have landed them back in prison. And that is attributable in part to the fact that there was no actual vetting of these folks. One of the things that the Office of the Pardon Attorney has done for many, many years is vetted candidates for pardon so that there is a lot of information in front of the president when he makes a decision so that an informed decision can be made about, is this person likely to pose a danger to the public if they are released early or if they are not held accountable for this crime? And that didn't happen here, and the consequences of that are already evident.
Yeah, those are the specifics that you'd hope would be reviewed before any kind of pardon or clemency would be granted. And
yes,
we've noted some of these cases that you've referred to. But there are a lot of them. I mean, these were not good people, many of them. Yeah. I wanted to play a little bit of Liz on MS to just set the table for our next topic, which is really the Ghislaine Maxwell thing, because it really is clear that they're circling the wagons around Donald Trump right now on the Epstein case. And it's frustrating because the messaging is getting confused. Bondi says one thing, Trump says another thing. And Kash, Patel, Bongino, et cetera, they're all so they're trying to get some coherence to their message, it would seem. Albert, do you have that? I wanted to play a little bit of this is Liz on MS.
Liz, here's where I kind
and
of
Michael Steele is speaking now for those just listening and not watching.
The pardon attorney space and kind of know what all that's about. I'm just curious, when you talk about a meeting like this and the principles that are going to be at the meeting, what does that say to you when you're, knowing the former thinking, if you will, inside the building, whether it's DOJ or Patel, the FBI,
et cetera.
To have this kind of confab and for the vice president to say, oh, we're not going to be talking about Epstein. Well, like the hell you aren't. Of course you're going to be talking about Epstein. Your own people are putting that out on the street. So I don't understand what they think we should think of this meeting when we see exactly what this meeting is trying to do, particularly given that none of the victims are represented in the conversation?
So the cast of characters at this meeting is one of the most interesting things about it. JD Vance, up until now, has not had any role in managing the Epstein crisis. And the fact that they're bringing him in suggests that they have now realized belatedly that they need to give Donald Trump a little bit more insulation from what's going on in the case. He was caught in a lie, a pretty big lie, just the other day when he said that Pam Bondi had never briefed him on the fact that his name appears in the Epstein files, and that turned out to be false. So now they're
being Donald Trump, not JD Vance.
Donald Trump, exactly, yeah. And now they're giving Donald Trump plausible deniability for when he goes out and talks to the press again about this, which we know he will because he can't help himself, by having JD Vance be the intermediary. So then next time he can say, yeah, Todd Blanche did not talk to me about his meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell, which is something that he has said several times in the last couple of days, because it's now being filtered through JD Vance. So that's significant. Another thing that's significant is now Pam Bondi seems to be back in the fold. She was out for a while. She was initially managing this issue and failed to do so effectively. So Todd Blanche was brought in to take over. And now it's everybody at the table, which suggests now they know that they need to get their stories straight. That's what this is about.
Right, that they can't be talking past
I thought,
each other
as I
and
was
trying
saying,
to
you just do such a great job of putting the reducto on it all and bringing sharpness to it. Now, I understand the meeting has been rescheduled or whatever. It got so much media coverage. But it does look like, in addition to the messaging coherence that they're striving for, there is a deal likely in the pipeline. I know this is speculation, but Liz, I mean, it just seems so clear that something is going on.
Yeah, so Ghislaine Maxwell has already gotten something of a deal because she has been moved now to a minimum security prison. And that is really significant because Ghislaine Maxwell is convicted of a sex offense. She's convicted actually of 5 sex offenses. She's serving a 20-year prison sentence based on the nature of her crime. She is not eligible to serve her sentence in a minimum security facility under longstanding Bureau of Prisons regulations. However, that regulation has been waived in her case. It's something that can only be waived at a very high level, likely the director of the Bureau of Prisons or his boss, the Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, would have to do that. So she's gotten a concession, a substantial benefit, going to a nicer, less secure, less restrictive prison than anyone else with a similar crime could be eligible for, which suggests that there is a deal that's in the works. Whether there are more benefits coming her way, we don't know for sure, but there has been a lot of discussion about whether she'll receive a pardon. And the fact that we are even having a conversation about it is really pretty shocking. There is not one case in history that I am aware of where someone who was convicted of a crime involving sexual exploitation of children has received clemency from the president. It's just the type of crime where that doesn't happen. It's not considered. And if a president were to consider it, the first thing that would be done is consultation with the victims to see how would they feel if this person were to receive a pardon. But by all accounts, the victims have not been consulted. The Justice Department has not been fulfilling its legal obligations to consult with the victims. And that is required by law, as well as longstanding Department of Justice policy. So it's really extraordinary that we've gotten to a situation where we're discussing this issue on really a daily basis. And she's just committed such serious crimes that have really destroyed the lives of her victims.
Oh my God, yes. I mean, it led to suicide, and the grotesque nature of these crimes is something that when you read about it, just makes your skin crawl. I mean, just the stolen lives, and what you point to when you talk about what might be in the offing is interesting because you also say the victims are left out of this, and so they've had to actually come to media and say, "Hey guys, what about us? What about the details of the Epstein files that can be released so that the victims get their day in the media court?" They are completely being bypassed.
Yeah, that's right. And it's having the effect of re-traumatizing them. This is something that career professionals at the department would be sensitive to. The Deputy Attorney General and the Attorney General are not sensitive to, but victims go through a really trying and traumatic process when they have to testify at a trial and participate in the legal process that is required to secure a conviction of someone who's committed a crime. And they endured all of that here. They had every reason to believe that Miss Maxwell's conviction and sentence were final and that they could have some peace. But it's now all being upended, brought into front and center of the public conversation. And there's a real possibility that this conviction will somehow be unraveled by the Justice Department, the very agency that is supposed to be advocating on behalf of victims of crime. So it's shocking what is being done here, and it really defies every norm, every convention, and longstanding policies of the Justice Department.
Would the deal that they make I'm already feeling as though we've heard 1,000 FBI agents have been pulled off of their regular duties. They're going through the files. They're looking for Trump's name. It would appear that there's some sort of dry cleaning going on of these files. And beyond that, what kind of statement or what kind of deal might there be with Maxwell? Meaning, is it just keep your mouth shut and don't say anything? Or you understand, Ms. Maxwell, that President Trump was never part of any of this, right? You understand that, right? And you're going to, I'm sure, maintain that position, which is truthful, right? Is that the kind of implied deal that they make?
Yeah, there are really two possible things that she could do for the Trump administration. One is to say that Donald Trump had nothing to do with the crimes of Jeffrey Epstein. And two is to implicate other people who are Trump's political enemies or rivals. And she could do either or both of those things. It seems likely that she will do at least the first one of those things. Some information has leaked to the media suggesting that she may have said to Todd Blanche, Donald Trump didn't know anything about Jeffrey Epstein's crimes or something to that effect. The issue, though, is her credibility. She is someone who has every incentive to say what Donald Trump wants to hear at this point, because she is now serving a 20-year prison sentence and is desperate to get out from under that sentence. Her attorney has made it clear that she's looking for relief from that sentence. And Todd Blanche, importantly, is someone who got his start as Donald Trump's personal attorney representing Donald Trump when he was not president and leveraged that into this high-ranking position at the Justice Department. He seems to be proceeding with the interests of Donald Trump, the man, front and center, not the interests of justice or upholding the laws of our nation or serving the American people.
You know, Liz, everything is so obvious here. It so lacks subtlety. This administration, to me, it's like a magician who doesn't know sleight of hand. Everything is so nakedly clear. And one of the nakedly clear moments, in addition to the overall movement of the chess pieces, again, you can just see it, was, Albert, do you have that from the Oval Office, the JD Vance statement? I think that he was saying, Trump saying it's all a hoax. It's over and over, all a hoax. And the more they say, Trump had nothing to do with this. Trump had nothing to do with this. It's methinks thou dost protest too much a bit. Albert, do you have that running just for a moment? I think it's just great context.
It's completely fake news. We're not meeting to talk about the Epstein situation, and I think the reporter who reported it needs to get better sources.
Look, the whole thing is a hoax. It's put out by the Democrats because we've had the most successful 6 months in the history of our country. And that's just a way of trying to divert attention to something that's total bullshit. Okay.
So what Tim Cook's there from Apple. I mean, they're it's an economic forum kind of thing. They're talking about the tariffs and about onshoring things. And Vance is talking about the meeting, saying the one thing we're not going to talk about is the Epstein. But it's hilarious. I mean, if you put it in like an episode of The Office, it would have fit in perfectly. I just am astounded by how open this administration is about everything they're doing. There's no spycraft to any of it.
You're right. The corruption, frankly, is right out in the open. The types of things that one could imagine being done in the past, but being done quietly and on the down low, are being done right in front of us. And Donald Trump seems to feel a sense of entitlement to use the Justice Department to accomplish his personal objectives. One of the most chilling moments toward the start of the administration was the day that Pam Bondi escorted Donald Trump into the Great Hall of the Justice Department to give an address. And he declared himself in his speech the chief law enforcement officer in the nation, which is actually the job of the attorney general, not the president. And she stood by his side smiling, and she echoed that, telling the entire workforce of the Department of Justice, we're talking about over 100,000 people, that we are all the president's lawyers. That is not true. The attorneys in the Justice Department, all of the employees in the Justice Department take an oath to uphold the Constitution. They are there to serve the American people. But Donald Trump believes that the Justice Department is his personal law firm, and Pam Bondi agrees with him, and she's the boss of all of the employees who work there, which puts them in a very difficult situation on a daily basis.
Serving the American people is something that's really getting lost in this administration. I mean, even the People's House, the White House, always was deliberately, they had deliberately avoided things like the gold encrusted mantelpieces and the palatial aspects of a reign of a king is something that they deliberately steered away from. And yet now it would seem like even those superficial aspects of the Trump administration reinforce his rise to authoritarianism, is what I would say anyway.
Yeah, the amount of money that's changing hands and the trappings of wealth that he is surrounding himself with using official means is really shocking. The Qatari jet is a good example of it. The attorney general signed off on him receiving a gift that is worth a staggering amount of money from a foreign government that he gets to keep after he leaves office. This jet that's been described as a flying palace. The US government is going to be spending hundreds of millions of dollars retrofitting it for his use, and then he will get to continue using it after he leaves office. It's really just a type of corruption that we have not seen before in this country. And we're seeing that at so many levels throughout the Justice Department as well. One of the things that I have been following that really just it's really just hard to comprehend is that there are now January 6 rioters who have been hired to work in the Justice Department who are being paid with taxpayer dollars. I posted on my Instagram today about one of them, and folks can find more about this on my Instagram, which is Lawyer Oyer. But there's a guy who is on video screaming at police officers and screaming at other rioters to kill the police officers as they're being beaten on January 6th outside the Capitol, who is now working in the office of the Deputy Attorney General. He is a senior advisor to Todd Blanche in the office of the Deputy Attorney General, which just shows the total disregard for basic norms of civility in our society that is corrupting, frankly, the work of the Justice Department. It should be very upsetting to all Americans, regardless of political affiliation.
Sure. I mean, the degradation of the Justice Department is on full display also. That example is stomach turning. It's just horrifying. Is there a way back? It seems as though all of the guardrails, to use the oft-used expression, regarding Trump and his extended reach to kind of do his dirty work, the Justice Department I'm talking about, those guardrails are gone. So I'm constantly, we talk about a lot of this stuff on the show, and some of what you've talked about today, these are real, legit revelations. And I'm going to get, well, what do we do about it? What do we do about it? And I always feel like, first of all, talking about it is doing something about it. You've got to build awareness on the part of the public that this stuff is going on. So right now, I think, there's a lot going on just in pointing it out and turning a light on it. But I'm wondering, there's no self-correcting aspect to the Department of Justice, is there, Liz? I mean, there's just a reality here that is associated with their corruption. If they want to corrupt it, they can corrupt it and make it rotten to the core.
There really is no self-correcting mechanism. You're absolutely right. What they have done is they have strategically and intentionally removed the guardrails that existed previously in the institution to make those corrections. Some of the most disturbing firings are firings of people in jobs that are not well known, but that are important to the integrity of the institution. For example, the ethics director for the department was recently fired. That's the person who would tell the attorney general or the deputy attorney general if they're doing something that violates federal ethics laws, or if they need to recuse themselves from a case, or if they need to make a particular disclosure. That person was fired, and to my knowledge has not been replaced. Another person who was fired the same day I was fired actually is the information policy director, the person who ensures that the department is complying with the Freedom of Information Act. That is an especially important law right now because it's what requires transparency in government. And now the director of that office is no longer in place, and there is a tremendous backlog of freedom of information requests with the department from people who are just trying to get basic information about what is going on there.
Yeah, I'm sure that there's a backlog. I mean, they really want no information out, and I'm sure the demand for the information has never been greater. So my last question to you, or semi-last question to you, is those of you who know the Justice Department so well, who've worked, loyally as public servants, it's not a get-rich job. I mean, working for the government is a job I think you do out of real public service. And I know there's great pride in many who worked at Justice formerly under past administrations, and even this one prior to the way it has changed so radically. So this is kind of a question about Washington and about the afterlife with the administration. Is there a community building there where I see you all scattered, but I'm wondering if there is a place, a message board, a meeting where there is where you and former colleagues talk about not necessarily strategies, but perhaps just what's going on and how America is changing.
There is a great organization that was founded by a DOJ alum named Stacey Young called the Justice Connection, and it provides resources to those leaving the Justice Department, some voluntarily, some involuntarily, and that has formed a really strong community of former Justice Department folks who are invested in the institution. And I think many of them, myself included, really hope to be part of the rebuilding process for the department in the future. I'm somebody who never really thought of myself as very political. I was in this, as you say, for the public service because I believed I was performing an important service to the public. And I truly believed that it was a function that had a role under any administration, that my work would be able to continue even when the administration changed. And that was just proven to be incorrect, but it should have been able to continue. The Department of Justice is a nonpartisan institution, and it's one that plays an important role that every American should be invested in. It keeps us safe, protects our civil rights, protects the rule of law, and it's just one that we urgently will need to rebuild when we reach the end of this administration.
So you do think we'll reach the end of this administration, Liz?
It feels like there's a lot of time left, and I have no idea where we will be in another 3.5 years, given how much has changed in the last 6 months.
Here is what Kurt asks, and there are just a couple of questions for you quickly. Ask Liz if JD Vance and the cabinet may actually be discussing Section 4 of the 25th Amendment. Oh, I don't think they're. Well, I mean, I'll ask you the question. I mean, that's the sort of the notion that you could remove Trump from office based on incompetence or based on questionable competence or mental acuity lapses or whatever. Well, can you speak to that? Do you think there's any meeting or any conversation around that?
I don't think so. I don't think anyone in Trump's cabinet would dare to initiate that conversation.
Yeah. I mean, it's also something that, here in Libville, and I ever consider myself a truly super lib. I know I'm progressive on certain issues, but also on others not. I think, like most Americans, I think that, we're a mix of things. But I think there's a reinforcement of, oh, Trump's really done it this time. Oh, my God, he's gone too far. And that's legitimately true, as it reflected in some of the things we talked about today. But I'd suggest that in our own echo chamber, everything seems so outrageous. But if you talk to people who voted for Trump in MAGA land, I talk to a lot of them. They're not, on some DEF CON level that would suggest that they're frustrated with Trump to the point that they want him tossed out. That's really something we have to get our heads around, and that's a heavier lift, it would seem.
Well, I think that's why it's so important that we bring to light some of the things that are going on in the administration that might not be widely reported or known. My focus is really on shedding light on what's going on inside the Department of Justice, things that I think should be concerning to every American. One of the things that I've been closely tracking is the pardons that have been granted to date by the president. And setting aside the January 6th pardons, he has issued a huge number of pardons to people convicted of very substantial white-collar fraud offenses. And altogether, Trump's pardons have had the effect of forgiving wealthy Americans of over $1.3 billion of debts that they owe to crime victims and to U.S. taxpayers. So they cost the taxpayer and the victims of crimes over $1 billion. And Trump has never explained why he's granted those pardons. They're mostly to people who are donors and supporters of the president, including one woman who paid $1 million to have dinner with the president several days before he pardoned her son. Things like that there's just nothing in that for the ordinary American of any party affiliation. And I think that everyone should be looking at things like that, questioning why is he doing that? What's he getting out of that? And what am I getting out of that as a taxpayer and a voter? And my hope is that if we continue to shed light on these things that are happening, that Americans will realize that this administration is not benefiting them.
No, that's a really polite way to put it. I mean, I'd say this is a lawless administration. It's a pay-to-play administration. There should be a for sale sign out in front of that White House. But I love your Instagram. I love those moments. Lawyer Oyer is where you can find, and they're bite-sized, easy to understand morsels of this abomination that's going on at the Justice Department. And there it is. Yeah, Lawyer_Oyer. And you've become sort of this internet sensation, haven't you, Liz Oyer?
I don't know if I would say sensation, but I never in a million years thought that I would have tens of thousands of followers on social media. I'm on TikTok as well and Substack. My Substack is also Lawyer Oyer, and I'm posting some more in-depth content about not just the Justice Department in general, but also my own litigation. I am litigating with the Department of Justice over my firing, and I have a number of different things going on. So
I love it. I love it.
I hope that folks will consider subscribing to the Substack and following me on Instagram or TikTok. That's the best way to support my work.
And lawyeroyer.com is the place.
Yep, lawyeroyer.com is the way you can reach the Substack. I kind of dedicated myself, or I am dedicating myself now to what I call defending our democracy. And it's not financially lucrative, but it's what I think I need to be doing right now. And I really appreciate folks following the content that I'm creating to help keep us informed and engaged.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure that I get for many listening on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts, et cetera, it's Lawyer Oyer, and is there a dash in the middle or something, or is it just lawyeroyer.com?
Just, yeah, www.lawyeroyer.com will
Good.
take you right to the Substack.
Yeah, we've got it on screen, lawyeroyer.com, and they'll take the Substack. We will become among your supporters. We're fans, Instagram, TikTok, but we now will be supporters, financial supporters. I pledge that to you today.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course. I mean, I just think what you're doing is terrific, and I love that this conversation continues in all of these different forums in which you make yourself available. And I really appreciate you making yourself available to us today. And I hope we will do this again. Thank you, Liz.
Definitely. I'd love to join you anytime. Thanks so much for having me on, Mark.
Liz Oyer, everyone. Good stuff. Good stuff.
The Mark Thompson Show.
How great is she? I mean, that's what you want in a public servant. That's what, I grew up in Washington, and so many dedicated people, brilliant people. I mean, Liz Oyer's brilliant. Just her background, her education. And they work, tirelessly in government for the people. It's really a job of great pride.
Mm-hmm.
And it's largely unrewarded. As I say, it's not financially beneficial, particularly to work for the government, as you're aware. And so I think now her great value is as a resource as to what's going on in government and what continues to be as I say, a lawless effort to degrade this place that was such a great institution, the Department of Justice. And I'm really delighted that she's doing that work, and we'll have her on again. And I encourage everybody to follow her.
Next time we have her on, I want to ask her about, because she's a Harvard educated lawyer.
Exactly.
I want to ask her about what's going on at Harvard and, her alma mater, what, how the Trump administration wants to stick their fingers in the hirings and the teachings and all the other things going on at Harvard, and how all these universities seem to be bending backward to accommodate Trump just so they can get whatever remains of federal funding to their research institutions.
Yeah, it's funny. I had that on my list of things to ask her, and then we just kind of ran out of time.
Yeah, no, the conversation was great, but let's have her back on.
We really should, definitely. I want to get some news in, and then we'll pick up on the other side with the tariffs. Tariffs now in effect, the chaotic, bizarre, otherworldly tariffs that are untethered to any sort of economic reality. They are going into effect. We'll discuss them and give them some coherence. Also, a special edition of It's the Planet Stupid. Belinda Waymouth with some talk of what's happening. Good news is what she has. And I have, before she comes on, as you might expect, some concerning news out of the EPA, and I'll give you that. That'll be in the last half hour of the show. Smash the like button if you would. It's so important to us. It costs you nothing.
Rod.
Smash it like a boss.
Smash it with your iron rod.
The thumbs up, what it does is it helps get our show served to feeds that otherwise don't even know we're here. So that is how you can help us. And it costs you nothing. Please consider subscribing to the show. That is also free. Hit the notification bell and you'll know whenever there's a new video. We'll drop the conversation with Liz Oyer as a separate video. So you can send it, share it, put it on Facebook, whatever you want. And I think that's a great way to kind of increase the footprint of the show. I'll remind you it's Albert's birthday. So everybody try to behave. And Albert is... we've told him, I mean, it's his birthday, but you've got to stay focused, buddy, okay? You got to stay focused, all right? But it is your birthday, so there's a certain, I don't know, sense of celebration about everything.
There's never been anything like this.
Yeah, never anything like this, except for last year and the year before that, and the year before that when it was his birthday. All right, Kim's news, and we continue. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report is sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Oh, and the tea is really great, too. House Democrats who fled the state to stop a vote on Republican-led redistricting efforts may soon be getting a visit from the FBI. That is because Texas Governor Greg Abbott says the agency is tracking them down, adding they'll be taken directly to the Texas state capitol. Democratic lawmakers fled to various blue states, including Illinois, earlier this week to block the vote. I guess now they have to really hide out, huh? The Texas House is expected to try to establish a quorum again on Friday after failing to do so twice this week.
I have just a couple of things to say about this, but really briefly. One is, in the old FBI, I would have said this is absolutely ridiculous. It's impossible. This is just performative. It's theater. There's no way the FBI is going to cooperate and go track down Democrats who are in Illinois. Just no way. Now with this FBI, I mean, again, unmoored by all of the sort of constitutional restrictions associated with the FBI, the rule of law, maybe it'll happen. I mean, this really is the new America, but I'd say still it's probably a lot of bluster. I don't see the FBI going to wrap up Democrats. It would really put us in a still darker territory. We'll see. And the other thing I would say is, funny, FBI isn't going after all of those congressional leaders who walked out of Congress early so they wouldn't have to vote on the Epstein file release. Just weird about that. Like, oh my God, how the Democrats are so undemocratic, the way they leave town so that we can't get the vote on this redistricting in Texas. Yet in Congress, those Congress people left town early so that there would be no vote on the release of the Epstein files. I mean, and Final thing, Republicans have done this very same thing with Democratic proposals in the Texas legislature. So this is hardly unprecedented.
Texas's Senator John Cornyn is announcing today that the FBI did indeed accept his request to track down these Democrats. So he says that they have said yes to doing his bidding here.
Well, again, I'll believe it when I see it. I think there are a lot of announcements made. But as I say, in the new America, I guess it wouldn't surprise me.
The White House is pushing back on the Kremlin's claims that a meeting between President Trump and Vladimir Putin has been secured. ABC News reports no location has been set, and the Russian president must meet with Ukrainian President Zelensky for this meeting to happen. The Kremlin had said a meeting would take place in the coming days.
It's tougher and tougher to find a meeting place. Trump said that he's going to meet with Putin, but it's very hard to find a meeting place where, Putin is wanted as a war criminal. And there is an international warrant out, if you want to think of it that way, for him. So Putin's become a problematic figure from the standpoint of where he can go and where he can meet.
Doesn't Putin have all kinds of precautions taken because, people try to get rid of him? And so, they have to be very careful.
Yeah, they have to take him and his food tasters and all the other people who are, you're right, making sure that nothing happens to him.
President Trump's sweeping tariffs now in effect. Import taxes will reach levels not seen in the country in almost 100 years, with more than 60 countries in the European Union facing rates of 15% or more in some cases. A wide variety of products will be hit, ranging from appliances, cars, food, furniture. Guess who's paying for that? That would be you. President Trump is expected to sign an executive order seeking greater transparency in college admission practices. According to a senior White House official, the order directs Education Secretary Linda McMahon to broaden the requirements for schools to report admission data. McMahon is being tasked with revamping the online databases with updated information so that students and parents can easily navigate it.
I mean, I'm sorry, but again, every time you mention a cabinet official, and this one's Linda McMahon, it's just people who go to dinner with Donald Trump or who have, shown up to one of his parties. These are people who are utterly incompetent. She has no knowledge of the educational system. She didn't even know what AI was. You'll remember she was talking about it in that meeting, and she was calling it A1. We want to get A1. It's like these people are so profoundly incompetent, and yet they're in charge of this nation. It leaves me downcast every day.
Yesterday, we were following a story about a shooting at Fort Stewart in Georgia. We know today that 2 of the 5 soldiers who were shot in that case remain hospitalized. Brigadier General John Lubis said 2 of the soldiers are expected to make full recoveries. 1 could be released this weekend. The suspected gunman, an active duty military member, was taken into custody following that attack. Sergeant Cornelius Radford was stationed at that base and ended up being subdued by his fellow soldiers. Millions of people in the northern United States could be dealing with some wicked weather over the next couple of days. We're talking tornadoes, hurricane-force wind gusts, and hail, all possible with parts of North Dakota expected to be impacted the most today. The severe weather threat will shift eastward tomorrow, and then this weekend, cities like Minneapolis, Chicago, and Green Bay might get hit with storms as well. President
You got to
Trump,
kind of guess now when the storms are coming, because the Weather Service in NOAA has been completely gutted. So it's really a guessing game.
It's a toss-up. We'll just report weather every day and hope we get it right. President Trump wants a new census that omits illegal immigrants or undocumented immigrants.
This is a wild story.
From the population count. We're just going to pretend they're not here, I guess. According to the president's post, the new census will be based on modern day facts, figures, and information gained from the presidential election of 2024. The last census was for 2020. Another one isn't scheduled for 2030. But he wants the next census to omit undocumented folks from the count.
The census is every 10 years. He wants to change it so that, as Kim has noted, it will no longer register illegal, undocumented people in this country. The census is designed to give you a picture of the demography of the United States of America, right? So that you know how many illegal, undocumented people are in America, how many legal, documented people are in America, how many people are here on green cards, how many people, et cetera. But it's not just about citizenship. It's about all kinds of things. It's about age. It's about income. It's the census. It's designed to give you a representation, an accurate representation of the United States of America. Now, in the perversion of what is accurate and what is not, since there is, again, an ongoing effort to have propaganda decide what America is, it looks as though the ability of the census to really give you a picture of what America it consists of will be completely undermined. Now, this hasn't happened yet, but the proposal is on its face absurd. But like many other proposals that are on their face absurd, it may happen under this administration.
I'm under the impression that census data is used in providing funding for different states for
Exactly,
different reasons.
services,
Yeah.
precisely, right. Exactly. It's not just elections, but for
Mhm.
Trump, it's, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what his priority is, but I know he talks about elections all the time. It's about domination and power. I mean, it really is. It's about what the dominant demographic will be. I'd suggest he wants white men to be the dominant demographic, and he wants them to have power that corresponds to that desire.
The Gifford fire is still raging on California's central coast. It has burned more than 96,000 acres, this one 15% contained. The fire has prompted evacuation orders for hundreds of homes in Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo counties. This fire, the largest in California this year so far, started on Friday afternoon near Santa Maria. On the central coast, and again continues to burn. 96,000 acres is at its where it is now.
It makes me so frightened for the coming fire season. You could say the fire season's year round, but I mean, I'm talking about the offshore winds that really produce the kinds of, these conflagrations that are devastating. I have, palpable anxiety about that.
PTSD.
Having lost our house to fire,
Sure.
you can understand.
I mean, completely understandable.
Yeah.
Well, get a load of this one. A new study suggests the Palisades and the Eaton fires may be linked with hundreds of deaths. The massive fires in January killed a confirmed 31 people in Los Angeles County. But Wednesday, a research letter was published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, and it says LA County experienced 440 more deaths than typically expected between January 5th and February 1st. The fires fall within that time period as well. So the study says the higher number of deaths likely reflects increased exposure to poor air quality or delays and interruption in health services that were caused by those fires. I mean, what happens when the fire's going and someone's having a heart attack? You're not going to get an ambulance as quickly, right? So again, let me just say that's 440 more deaths than typically associated with that time frame during the period where the fires were going. So how many people did that fire really kill? 31 officially, but 440, we don't know.
Wow, that's really an interesting way to look at these things too. Yeah, we seem to focus, and you can understand why, on people who lost their life, being trapped in a house or trapped in a car or whatever it might be. But there's a far bigger ripple effect from the fire than is originally reflected in those statistics. Wow.
Mel Gibson's long-awaited sequel to his 2004 film, The Passion of the Christ, is on the way. Go to the theaters, Mark. Stand in line. Lionsgate confirming this week The Resurrection of the Christ will be released in 2027. It's a two-parter. Part 1 coming out on Good Friday. Part 2 coming out 40 days later on Ascension Day. He's really getting into the holy roller thing.
He's a big Catholic, and he's got this part of Catholicism that I don't really understand. It's it's an extreme part of Catholicism.
Well, it's good because Jim Caviezel needs the work, and he is he's expected to return as Jesus. He was in the last one.
That's great. Everybody's happy about. Yeah, big Jim.
He gets a little money now.
No open auditions for Jesus. We've got our Jesus. We have our
Jesus. Jesus says the part is filled. The role has been taken.
Yeah.
In baseball, this is for Albert. Shohei Ohtani now has 1,000 hits in his Major League Baseball career. He did it with a 2-run home run in the 3rd inning of Wednesday's game against the St. Louis Cardinals. He was also the starting pitcher, allowing 1 run on 2 hits and striking out a season-high 8 batters. He's doing pretty well. Unfortunately, or fortunately for Albert, the visiting Cardinals rallied to beat the Dodgers 5-3. But Ohtani is now the 3rd Japanese-born Major League player with 1,000 hits, joining Ichiro Suzuki and Hideki Matsui as well.
Wow.
And Ichiro just inducted to the Hall of Fame, I think, just last week. And he had all in English, which is very impressive. So shout out Ichiro.
Wow.
Yeah.
Also in baseball, and lastly, the first female umpire in a regular season Major League Baseball game will be standing behind the plate this weekend.
Oh, my God.
You just woo.
Yeah, that's great.
Her name is Jen Powell, and she'll umpire in 3 of the 4 games between the Miami Marlins and the Braves in Atlanta that start today. She began her career as an umpire back in 2016 in the minor leagues. In 2024, she became the first woman in 17 years to umpire in a spring training game, and now we have her in a regular season Major League Baseball game.
Don't even play.
I have to say, Albert,
I think other sports have it too. Like NBA have it, and NFL does have it too. So it's nice to see that. Being an umpire in baseball probably got to be one of the toughest spots, but it'll be helpful with Mark's automated system that he wants.
Albert has skipped ahead in the movie. That's exactly right. I'm delighted that she's there. The umpiring and the you can say I see. Umpire. I watch the Giants games regularly, and I'm seeing so many missed calls. It's crazy, and the way the announcers just say, "Well, I guess they call that a ball." Okay, I mean, it's the umpiring, I think, is not good, and I am all for robo-umps. There shouldn't be anybody, man or woman, behind home plate calling balls and strikes. They can call other things related to the game, but not balls and strikes. But where does that sit there, Albert? Can I review that again? Where are we?
I think it's implemented in the minor leagues. They just tap their head and immediately they review it. And I think they did it in the All-Star game, and spring training. So everywhere except for the major leagues, Mark.
It's got to be coming. Yeah. But that's great. Congratulations to her. She can now get all the abuse that the male umpires get,
This report is sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't tried the Lion's Mane coffee or tea, which is the turmeric chai, it's really worth trying. I like the turmeric chai tea cold rather than hot. It's kind of spicy hot. My husband says it smells like Christmas, but cold, I really like it. And you get the benefit of the mushrooms being infused, the lion's mane. It's supposed to bring you mental clarity. So there it is, the turmeric. You say turmeric or turmeric? It has an R in it. The turmeric chai. Yeah. And it's really, really good. I'm really enjoying that tea. And they also have various other teas. They have the sun tea, hibiscus orange sun tea for summer. I love the vanilla tea. My daughter really loves the English breakfast tea. So many good teas. Mark loves the Ocotillo espresso. Is that what you're drinking today? Or are you lion's maning?
I'm lion's maning today, but I'll tell you, I am probably next week going to shift to the darker roast, just to get back to my roots. But I do love the lion's mane. I can't get away from it. I'm really into it.
Yeah,
I'm surprised just how much I've fallen in love with this particular blend. So I do recommend it. And obviously, you must use our discount. I want all of our listeners and viewers to get the discount. You get 10% off with Mark T in the discount code. And it's good for anything on the site. So you can, there are people I've seen with the Coachella Valley mugs. They have Stanley mugs with it's a really cool merch line. Yeah. So if you'd go for that, you get 10% off that also. So definitely use our discount code Mark T at checkout to get all that stuff.
It's all at CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. I'm Kim McAllister, and this is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
Right on. Great to have everybody here. I want to get into the tariffs quickly, but I want to quickly recognize you can always chat with us. Our live chat is welcoming. It's a chat community that is always welcoming to others, even those who disagree. So please don't be intimidated. Jump right on. And you can always chat after the show. That is to say, leave comments. We read all the comments. I see comments that are substantive, and I see comments. Sometimes I push them onto you, Albert. In fact, maybe I'll do that tonight. I'll push some stuff onto you. Some of them are substantive, and some of them are completely superficial. It's such an education as to what things people respond to. So I will give you some of that a little bit later. Right now, MTS is vital to my sanity, says Richard Delamater, who is the Hunter S. Thompson of this show. Good morning, people. I love you, says Richard. Wow. Well, I see your love, and I reflect it back at you, my friend. Nullifidian says with a $5 super chat, if we don't change direction soon, we'll end up where we're going. Yeah, I mean, that's a cute way to say we are headed in a pretty dark direction. I absolutely agree. Harry says, question, is Gabbard and intelligence an oxymoron? Yeah, she is a piece of work, that Tulsi Gabbard. She really is. And sometimes the animals win, says a West Theory, in the game of hunting. Go team. Yay, yeah, to that millionaire trophy hunter who was gored. Happy birthday, says Jim Eaton to Albert. Yeah. Albert always gets the love. The kids love their Albert.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, Jim's the real thing. Appreciate you all, says Lori. Appreciate you, Lori. Big shout out to Lori and everybody who supports the show.
Big shout out.
Yeah. And super sticker from DLC Shield. I've never, I think, come across DLC Shield before. So welcome, DLC Shield. Big shout out to you.
Big shout out.
And thank you for the $10 super sticker. That's really cool. We are a crowdfunded show, so appreciate all the support. Big Tuna says the Remarkables. That's what people who are devotees of the show are calling themselves, the Remarkables. We don't drink the Kool-Aid. We sip on the truth. Oh, that is a great, yes,
that's really strong.
Very strong, Big Tuna. That would make a great T-shirt. New Mark merch. Yeah, I'll bring it up to the merch board. I think it could be good. By the way, I encourage you to check out the merch site. There's some cool stuff and some cool kind of activist T-shirts that are also tasteful. You know, so they don't say F Trump or something like that. I mean, that's just not really. This is more like what you'll see. Make Love, Not Fascism. Project 1984 and a half. I really like that one. Sort of reflecting the Orwellian times we're living in. I love that son. Born to Peacefully Resist. And then there's a Born to Peacefully Resist with the Earth there. I love both of those. Really love both of those. And so on. So check it all out. They're in different colors. And the knitted cardigan, the bomber jacket. There's a lot of stuff. But I really think I give Courtney in particular a lot of credit for revamping our merch site, getmarkmerch.com. She's found new merch. And of course, my personal favorite, the socks. The Mark Thompson Show socks are something that you can slip onto your feet, and then, you know, when you want to show it off, you just pull up that pant leg a little bit. Or if you're wearing shorts, you've got it on full display all the time. The Mark Thompson Show crew socks. Again, a very popular item. And Richard Delamater likes the bucket hat. He says the best bucket hat in the world. So is Mark wearing the cardigan today? No, not today. Not today. But I will wear it as the weather turns. I didn't know this. Phineas says, I have the same fire trauma you have, Mark. My relatives died in the campfire.
Oh, no.
And I had to identify them. Geez, that's about as grim
Sad.
as you can imagine.
So sorry to hear that.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's really rough, Phineas. Man. Yeah, we lost our house in a fire in Southern California, but what was just described by Phineas is another level. Ole Hansen says Trump is about attention, even bad attention, if that is the only thing he can get. He is a toddler. I do think, as I've said to you before, he's about the announcement. He likes pronouncements. He likes the theater of being president. And a lot of that is the media attention. So there's way more to Trump than that. But mention any Trump hire that is qualified for the job, says Ole Hansen. It's hard. It's really hard to find one. I mean, maybe you can go through. I look through the cabinet, and I don't see anybody who would survive the vetting process of another administration. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to get too heavily into this, but I look at somebody like Scott Bessent, who knows better than all of this. He knows better, and yet he's out there slinging this crap every day on CNBC, on MSNBC. I mean, he knows these tariffs are just incredibly inflationary and they will devolve the American economy. Not to mention the political spillover, but he's out there slinging this stuff. I don't know. So they're people who know better, but they've checked their morality and ethics at the door before they come into this administration. Happy birthday, Kamish. Luis says, we may root for different teams. Luis is a Dodger fan, but I will always root for you in the game of life. Oh, isn't that sweet?
Thanks, Luis.
Really, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is very
Best
nice.
to the Dodgers.
Best to the Dodgers. Happy birthday, Kamish. Happy birthday indeed. So.
Feel it in your soul. The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, guys, let's get to the tariffs quickly. President Trump saying he's imposing a 100% tariff on computer chips. That will likely raise the cost of electronics, automobiles, household appliances, other essential goods. Quote, we'll be putting a tariff on approximately 100%. We'll be putting a tariff of approximately 100% on chips and semiconductors, he said. He said it in the Oval Office while meeting with Tim Cook from Apple, who's the
Tim
CEO.
Cook's like, thanks, we appreciate that tariff.
But if you're building in the United States, there's no charge. And that's kind of what he was doing there. Cook was saying we'll put $600 billion into doing a lot of the work here in this country. And again, Trump is saying that companies that make computer chips in the United States should be spared this import tax. But I see this all as a system of patronage, as a way in which Trump will extract concessions, and some of these concessions just don't make any sense. We talked about it before. I mean, like bananas. Weren't we talking about that yesterday? Like, are you going to get the banana industry powered back up into this? Because you've got a withering tariff on those countries that produce bananas. But, I mean, if you're trying to bring them here and onshore the banana industry, it just doesn't quite make sense.
And then there are other companies who say, this is not feasible for us, and we're just not going to be able to export to the United States anymore. We're done.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of that. And there are other trading partners that even the European Union is looking for, that many of these Asian countries are looking for. More than 60 countries around the world scrambling to respond to this latest wave. Rich and poor countries warning of job losses as these tariffs upend decades-old world trading systems with rates ranging from 10% to 39%, 40 and 41% for Switzerland, Brazil, and Syria.
Yikes.
And they're trying all over the world to scramble. Switzerland saying it will seek new talks with the U.S. after their last gas mission to Washington failed to stop this 39% tariff blow. Taiwan also continuing talks with the U.S. They have a 20% rate imposed on them. Ireland locked into an EU-U.S. deal, setting the tariff ceiling at 15%, saying that they're going to publish a new plan for diversifying their economy that relies heavily on U.S. multinationals like Intel and Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson. And despite a last-minute reprieve from Trump, Lesotho, with tariffs dropping from 50 to 15%, this is an African nation. It's tiny and it's impoverished. They're saying they're already hurting from these tariffs. And by definition, and we talked about this when he first debuted his tariff plan, you're going to have a tariff imbalance with a small country like Lesotho because there's just such a small population. How could they possibly import more from you than, I mean, you see the imbalance, there's just an asymmetry because of the population. But the other thing is, you know, this tariff imbalance or the trade imbalance that he points to then produce the tariff, it's crazy, right? You understand that? If you shop at Nordstrom and you use your credit card there and you buy $1,000 worth of stuff at Nordstrom, and then you go to Banana Republic and you buy $600 worth of stuff there, is there a tariff? Is there rather a trade imbalance between you and Nordstrom and you and Banana Republic? No. I mean, that's where you went and got goods. You bought those goods, and that is trade. You gave them something, and they gave you something, both at Nordstrom and Banana Republic. That's what's happening in the world. Trump wants to see goods match and come together, although he doesn't even really care about that, because in the case of Brazil, they actually import more American products than they export, and they've got a 50% tariff levied upon them because of Bolsonaro. So he's ready to throw out whatever BS economics apply to the rest of the world in the case of Brazil. And in the case of India, he doesn't like the fact that they're importing Russian oil, and so they have a 40% tariff imposed upon them. I mean, this is really Trump wanting to manage the world, which you can do or try to do because you have so much power as the American president. We are such a wealthy nation, and so on some level, you can leverage that wealth to the rest of the world. But it's not a viable way to go about manage the American economy. And so just see my example. It's lunacy. He's not seeing the legitimacy of existing trade. He's only seeing balance of goods, or what he calls balance of goods. So in my Nordstrom example, I mean, you know, you tax Nordstrom because they're not offering you as much as you're offering them, or would you tax? I mean, where's the imbalance? I don't get it. I don't get it. It's a shame we can't hit Trump with $1,000 stupidity tariff, says Luis. Tariffs by themselves are not a policy. They're a tool to be used within a policy. Yeah, targeted, generally much smaller. That's where tariffs really begin to have some use. Paul Ryan is saying that the Supreme Court may undo these tariffs. You know, this tariff business all comes from a declaration of emergency. We've talked about it here on the show many times. And former House Speaker Paul Ryan is predicting there'll be disruptions because of President Trump's wide-ranging tariff regime, with consequences for financial markets. And these disruptions, he thinks, will be because the legal basis for Trump's country-specific, what he's calling reciprocal tariffs, that's what Trump's calling them, they are likely to be striking down that emergency declaration at the Supreme Court level. An appeals court is reviewing that authority, which Trump invoked through the 1977 International Emergency Economic Powers Act, the first president in history to use that law for tariffs. Ryan is saying, quote, it's more than likely that the Supreme Court knocks out that law that's being used for these tariffs, which doesn't have the word tariff in it. Then the president is going to have to go to other laws to justify those tariffs. There are a bunch of laws, and those are harder laws to operate within. So he's thinking that when that happens, the financial markets will again be thrown into a tailspin.
He's still thinking that everything's normal and that the judiciary isn't in Trump's pocket.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it seems as though everybody in Washington associated with this administration, and I include the Supreme Court as an extension of this administration, is saluting and doing what he wants. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, just today, reinforcing his call to overhaul the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That was the bureau that gave Trump the revised numbers on employment that he's not happy with. Bessent is saying that the U.S. economic data is at risk, pointing to a broader dysfunction in the federal government. This is what I'm saying, the normalization of the craziness of Trump and complaining that it was a hoax. This person is politically motivated. The head of the BLS, that's why I fired her. When we have covered, there were at minimum 40 statisticians and economists who went over that data. It's done in such a specific way. There's no way the head of the BLS had anything to do with changing that data.
Just because you don't like the numbers doesn't mean they're not true.
Yeah. And so that's the latest. And the head of Intel, the CEO, is being targeted by the White House. He's saying that the CEO of Intel should resign. So when you have the president, and I'll tell you why he wants the head of Intel to resign in a second. When you have the president pointing to someone who is CEO of a major company, demanding the resignation, that company is now in the crosshairs of the White House, and what happens to the stock? It goes way down. And that's what's happened today. We'll come back to that in a second. Intel shares tumbling after President Trump said in a social media post that the chipmaker's CEO needs to resign. He said, quote, "The CEO of Intel is highly conflicted and must resign immediately." Well, if anybody knows about highly conflicted, it's Donald Trump, everyone. Yeah. He is a walking conflict of interest. He said, "There is no other solution to this problem. Thank you for your attention to this problem," he said. He made the post after Tom Cotton, the senator, sent a letter to the Intel chairman, Frank Yeary, expressing concern over the CEO's investments and ties to semiconductor firms that are reportedly linked to the Chinese Communist Party and the People's Liberation Army. Cotton specifically calling out his recent leadership of this company within a connection to China's National University of Defense Technology, and that's a violation of U.S. export controls. So when the president points to this CEO, what you end up with is the very real possibility that the stock dropped. It did. And you could also say that knowing that that CEO is going to be called out by the president, that you can now buy Intel stock, Trump can reverse field, and that Intel stock will go back up, and you've kind of played the bounce. The reason I mention that is there's a lot of that going on in this administration. You'll remember at the beginning when he said we're going to impose these tariffs at midnight tonight, the stock market fell off a cliff, right?
Yep.
Then you could buy into that market, and he goes, you know what? We're going to do a 90-day pause. And all of a sudden, the stock market shoots up 2,000 points, and if you played that bounce, you became wealthy overnight. There is no legitimacy to so much of what the administration does that this could be falling into the same category. So, in any case, Trump is calling for the CEO of Intel to resign. And with that, we wait for the effect of these tariffs. I think that Wall Street has baked in a bit of this. We look at the stock market. It's not the only indicator of anything, but it does give you an indication of the way the business community is viewing all of this. And I think, at least earlier, I haven't been watching it since we've come on, but earlier, the market seemed to be kind of unremarkable in its reaction, you know. Anyway, that's a bit about tariffs, and we will update all of that tomorrow.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Vicky and Sausalito, before we get to the environmental news, thanks for another great show, and don't walk back on your anger at that Asher the Hunter guy. Thank you very much for backing me up. I know there's going to be a lot of blowback. How could you do that? That's disgusting. I'm not going to watch your show anymore, whatever. I get it. But I mean, there's right and wrong. And what that trophy hunter is doing is wrong. And I believe that trophy hunting is wrong. So I had an environmental story, and where is it? Here it is. Thank you. I'll share this with you before we get to It's the Planet Stupid. There is a NASA scientist's satellite that has cost American taxpayers a lot of money, I think, Kim. I want to say it was like, I feel like it's like $700 million or something.
For what?
The Trump administration has asked NASA employees to draw up plans to end at least 2 major satellite missions. And if the plans are carried out, one of the missions would be permanently terminated because the satellite would burn up in the Earth's atmosphere.
What? That's what happens.
The data the 2 missions collect is widely used, including by scientists, oil and gas companies, and farmers who need detailed information about carbon dioxide to determine crop health. They are the only 2 federal satellite missions that are designed and built specifically to monitor planet-warming greenhouse gases.
Don't worry about it. We're not eating plants and agriculture stuff anymore because there's no one to pick the crops.
Oh, there is that.
We don't need the weather in order to plan the crops. All of this is just, we don't need any of it anymore.
Both missions, known as the Orbiting Carbon Observatories, measure carbon dioxide and plant growth around the globe. They use identical measurement devices, but one device is attached to a standalone satellite, while the other is attached to the International Space Station. The standalone satellite would burn up in the atmosphere if NASA pursues those plans to terminate the mission. The insanity of this. Do you understand? It's already up there. It's already funded. I don't understand. Like, there's no fiscal policy associated with this that is served. These missions were funded. And so now they're looking at what? And this is what I always talk to you about. NASA announcing it will consider proposals from private companies and universities. Yeah, that might fill in the gap. So that is the latest in Trump land when it comes to the environment. But that's not everything. There is good news in some of the news around the environment, and we do it every week in a segment we call It's the Planet Stupid.
The planet Earth.
Some call me nature.
I am very passionate about the planet
Earth.
A living, breathing planet capable of sustaining whatever life forms we see fit to deposit on it.
Spock, judging by the pollution content of the atmosphere, I believe we have arrived.
It's the planet stupid. No. It's the planet stupid.
Our guide for It's the Planet Stupid, eco-journalist Belinda Waymouth. Hi, Belinda.
Hi, how are you?
Love that you bring some good news occasionally to this grim scene when it comes to planetary health. And one of the things you're touching on, as I understand it, is the effort to save a lot of coral from the bleaching process that seems to be an epidemic with the coral around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is happening on the Great Barrier Reef. So these Australian oceanographers are down there, and what they're doing is they are using boats, taking salt water, pressurizing it, and then vaporizing it by sending it out through hundreds of tiny little nozzles. And yeah, that's what they're doing. They're creating a fog, and then they have these misters on the back of the boat, and that sends out 2 more streams of mist. And then the 3 of these trails of water in the atmosphere then form this blanket, and they're going to put it over strategic parts of the Great Barrier Reef, the most important ecologically, to help cool it down and to shade it in the hot summer months. Because as we know, reefs, particularly tropical reefs, we have deep sea reefs and cold oceans that are not doing nearly as badly as what's happening to our tropical reefs. And the Great Barrier Reef has basically halved in the last 30 years. So this is really, really crunch time for it. And what's really interesting is, so this apparatus was developed you'll be sort of, I mean, it was developed by a group here in California, and it's now being used in Australia. Geoengineering has gotten a really, there are the Aussie guys on the deck of their one of their vessels pointing their fabulous water vapor up into the sky.
Yeah, it looks like one of those snow guns you might see at a ski area type thing. For those just listening,
Yeah, it's really like that. Like, there's not enough snow, we'll make snow. So there aren't enough clouds, we'll make clouds. And what's really interesting about this is, so a lot of clouds have big water droplets, and there aren't a lot of them. And what this strategically does is make very small water droplets. And so when the water droplets form a cloud, and that's what happens when water vapor condenses on any kind of particles that are in the atmosphere, so dust, soot, pollution, pollen. But when you have tiny little droplets, it means there's a lot more surface area to be reflective and to reflect the radiation from the sun back up into the atmosphere. So the tininess of the droplets is what's really key. And here's the thing that's interesting. So geoengineering has had a very, very bad rap. In the 1990s, when people started talking about it and they knew we were heating up the atmosphere and we needed to do something. And geoengineering basically means changing the planet. A lot of scientists said, no, you can't do that. There could be repercussions. But here's the thing, Mark. Human beings have already changed the planet, many times over. I mean, the Pleistocene, hunter-gatherers, we hunted and ate all the megafauna. I mean, practically. I mean, the saber-toothed tiger and the giant sloth that used to be here in America, do you see them anymore? No, they're gone. The woolly mammoth, it's gone. So we did that, and that had an impact on the climate. And then we've already geoengineered the atmosphere to the point where it's super, super hot. And I sent over that graph to you, Tony, to show, so we were sort of more or less, you'll see it's jagged, it goes up and down, but we stayed, around 270 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere pre the Industrial Revolution. And then since then, it's gone bonkers, and particularly, this century. In 2013, we went for the first time above 400 parts per million, and now we're, well above the 400 parts per million. So that's geoengineering. We did that. And so what these Australian, oceanographers are doing, I think, is geoengineering that is positive. And the other thing that's really positive about it is that they are talking to all the stakeholders, the rangers and the people who look after the various parts of the Great Barrier Reef. It's not like the people who wanted to take commercial jetliners filled with sulfur particles up into the atmosphere and just start spraying that everywhere to act as a blanket to stop the sun's radiation coming in. Or there were a couple of people who were like, oh, we're going to put iron into the ocean and cause an algal bloom, a huge algal bloom that will suck in all the CO2, and you've got to do it with, politicians, governments, the local people who live in those areas. They have to agree to this. And this is what these guys are doing, which is really different. And while there are still scientists who are saying, hey, you shouldn't be messing with nature, they're doing this on a very targeted small scale. So you go to a really important, there are 3,000 different reefs that make up the whole system of the Great Barrier Reef. Just to give people an idea of how big it is, it's the size of Italy. It's huge.
Wow.
They're never going to be able to protect all of it. But I've explained before on the show,
Can't believe it. Yeah, these seem like grim times, but you've done it. You can find Belinda Waymouth across social.
Halved in the last 30 years. So this is really, really crunch time for it. And what's really interesting is, so this apparatus was developed, you'll be sort of, it was developed by a group here in California, and it's now being used in Australia. Geoengineering has gotten a really, there are the Aussie guys on the deck of their one of their vessels pointing their fabulous water vapor up into the sky.
Yeah, it looks like one of those snow guns you might see at a ski area type thing. For those just listening,
Yeah, it's really like that. Like, there's not enough snow, we'll make snow. So there aren't enough clouds, we'll make clouds. And what's really interesting about this is, so a lot of clouds have big water droplets, and there aren't a lot of them. And what this strategically does is make very small water droplets. And so when the water droplets form a cloud, and that's what happens when water vapor condenses on any kind of particles that are in the atmosphere, so dust, soot, pollution, pollen. But when you have tiny little droplets, it means there's a lot more surface area to be reflective and to reflect the radiation from the sun back up into the atmosphere. So the tininess of the droplets is what's really key. And here's the thing that's interesting. So geoengineering has had a very, very bad rap. You know, in the 1990s, when people started talking about it and they knew we were heating up the atmosphere and we needed to do something, and geoengineering basically means changing the planet. A lot of scientists said, no, you can't do that. There could be repercussions. But here's the thing, Mark. Human beings have already changed the planet, many times over. I mean, the Pleistocene, hunter-gatherers, we hunted and ate all the megafauna. I mean, practically. I mean, the saber-toothed tiger and the giant sloth that used to be here in America, do you see them anymore? No, they're gone. The woolly mammoth, it's gone. So we did that, and that had an impact on the climate. And then we've already geoengineered the atmosphere to the point where it's super, super hot. And I sent over that graph to you, Tony, to show, so we were sort of more or less, you'll see it's jagged, it goes up and down, but we stayed, around 270 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere pre the Industrial Revolution. And then since then, it's gone bonkers, and particularly, this century. In 2013, we went for the first time above 400 parts per million, and now we're, well above the 400 parts per million. So that's geoengineering. We did that. And so what these Australian, oceanographers are doing, I think, is geoengineering that is positive. And the other thing that's really positive about it is that they are talking to all the stakeholders, the rangers and the people who look after the various parts of the Great Barrier Reef. It's not like the people who wanted to take commercial jetliners filled with sulfur particles up into the atmosphere and just start spraying that everywhere to act as a blanket to stop the sun's radiation coming in. Or there were a couple of people who were like, oh, we're going to put iron into the ocean and cause an algal bloom, a huge algal bloom that will suck in all the CO2, and you've got to do it with, politicians, governments, the local people who live in those areas. They have to agree to this. And this is what these guys are doing, which is really different. And while there are still scientists who are saying, hey, you shouldn't be messing with nature, they're doing this on a very targeted small scale. So you go to a really important, there are 3,000 different reefs that make up the whole system of the Great Barrier Reef. Just to give people an idea of how big it is, it's the size of Italy. It's huge.
Wow.
They're never going to be able to protect all of it. But I've explained before on the show, tropical coral reefs are very, very important. They provide the livelihoods of 1 billion of the people on Earth. You've got the coral triangle. So you've got the Great Barrier Reef, yes, here on the off the northeastern coast of Australia. And then above Australia, you've got one called the Coral Triangle, and that's Northern Australia, Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, Timor-Leste, the Solomon Islands, the Philippines, Malaysia, and all the people who live around that coral reef. They are getting their livelihood in, the fish that they fish out of it and they sell, and then also it's their source of protein. So the health of these coral reefs is super important. And why it's bleaching, there's the Coral Triangle. I've written about this before. It's an amazingly important, we've got 7 sea turtles in the world. 6 of them live in the Coral Triangle. I mean, it's really important. And all juveniles go to coral reefs to mature. So whether they're sharks or whether they're smaller fish, they go to a coral reef, they mature before they go out into the deep ocean. And as I said at the beginning, the Great Barrier Reef, half of it has been destroyed in the last 30 years because as the ocean heats up, the coral bleaches. Now, how does it bleach? So coral is made from calcium carbonate, and it has this really cute little photosynthetic algae, and they have a symbiotic relationship. It's called zooxanthellae. I've told you this, guys, before. I just love its name, zooxanthellae. It lives in the little holes in the coral, and it produces the food. But what happens when the ocean gets too hot, the zooxanthellae goes kind of nuts. It makes too much oxygen. The coral structure's like, what's going on? And it expels all the zooxanthellae. So it loses its color And and when they do this iridescent, they can do iridescent colors when they expel the zooxanthellae, and that can be like a sunscreen, like, oh, help, I need protection, and also a warning sign that something's going wrong for the coral. The other thing that's happening is we have worse storms, and the storms affect the coral. And the coral, offshore of a mainland is, helps mitigate the force of a storm as it comes ashore. So you want robust and healthy coral reefs. But the other thing is that all the CO2 that's going into the ocean is mixing, is basically the CO2 mixes with the water molecule, and it takes one of the hydrogens and it takes the oxygen and it makes an acid, and the acidicness of it is making it harder for the calcium carbonate, both of the coral and of mollusks. So seashell, our mussels and our oysters, they are finding it harder to make the shells because of the acidification. So we really need to protect coral reefs. Have I made myself clear?
No, you have. And I thought you actually make a really good point that we're already geoengineering the atmosphere inadvertently. So some modest pullback would be nice. Yeah.
And the thing is that obviously, I bleat on and on about this every week. What we really need to be doing is decarbonizing, but that's not happening fast enough. So we need to pull every lever that we have. And this lever is, it's small, but it's mimicking what nature does. And, we already use cloud seeding in agriculture. We do that so that, crops can get rain and there's less hail. So they do that in Australia. They do that here in the US. They do it in China. And because these guys are doing it sort of carefully and mindfully, they're going slowly. They know that it needs to be, scaled up at a fast rate. They need to better make more of these clouds. They need to use renewable energy to drive it. Right now, it's coming from oil-based energy, and they know that's wrong. But the thing I like about it, I use this term, the low tech, high impact. It's not exactly low tech, but they're not using any synthetic chemicals apart from the fuel that they're using to drive the ships. They're not creating a ton of pollution. Mainly what it's doing is creating something that helps. And because they want to do it in small targeted areas, not the entire, size of Italy, Great Barrier Reef, which would take, 800 different cloud making stations. Their idea is to target specific, very important ecological reefs and to try and, save them. And
it's exciting. So is there any early indication as to how this is going, or is it still so early?
Well, this particular day was, they said, their most successful day. And as they were in the boats leaving it, they could look back and they could see the clouds that they had created were still, sitting above the ocean. So that was a really good sign, because this is the other thing. And I don't think I already said this, that the little water droplets, they defy gravity. Like when you have a cloud that has big water droplets, they're heavy, they turn into rain, and they, so the water just, goes and joins the other water in the ocean. But if you have little droplets, that cloud, cover will stay longer. And the idea is that you would get a ranger in different parts of the, the islands that make up, the coral atolls around the reef, to be out in his or her boat on a hot summer's day and creating these clouds to protect, a particular area of the reef. And like I said, these tropical reefs, they're so important. The health of the ocean is so important. Tony asked me if that was AI generated, because it looks so good.
It does look good. These are the water droplets that turn to cloud like a fog.
Yeah, this one's a fog.
Water,
so
those
yeah,
just listening.
Yeah. So low lying, the water vapor that you can see, fog, and then when it gets higher up, it's clouds. And the idea is that it will, join the clouds, make more cloud cover. And
it's exciting. I mean, that there is a technology, that there is a science and a strategy to maybe save, as you say, a targeted area anyway of the Great Barrier Reef. Wow.
Yeah. I think, look, we just have to do everything that's smart, and this just, and we just have to be smart about this stuff. And so, yeah.
There was a story about the Defense Department and all the NOAA and hurricane information going away, and they weren't going to post it to their website anymore. And it was all part and parcel, it seemed, of the effort to erase from government websites any climate information and even weather information. Can you? Apparently, that's changed now. The government has decided they're going to post this information after all, or some portion of it. Can you speak to this?
Yeah. Can you believe they've had an about face? So what happened was in June, NOAA had to come out and say, hey, we're not going to share our important data anymore from our satellites. It used to just be available online. So any scientists who wanted to look at it for forecasting weather, for keeping tabs on how much ice is melting in the Arctic, which is really super important to know how quickly climate change is actually happening. And they said, no, that's it. It's going to be gone by the end of June. No can do. And people were aghast. I mean, the National Weather Service, how are you going to be able to predict? Because the thing about the satellites that are being used, so they're from the Defense Department, and this program was actually started back in 62 or 69. And they put these 12 satellites up, and they have these special microwaves. They can see through clouds. They can see the surface of the earth night and day, which is super important, because what they can do, because they can, they have this ability, is that weather forecasters can go on and see the data. How high are the waves? What is the surface wind speed coming across the ocean? What is the direction of that wind speed? So they could predict this is going to be a hurricane category 4. No, this is only going to be a 3. Now it's gone up to a 4 again, and this is how quickly it will make landfall. This is vital, and particularly here. So the first about face was they said, you know what, we'll let this information be available until the end of July, peak hurricane season. And that, I think, also would have been, I'm sure that, Trump's base would have been like, because a lot of them live in very hurricane-prone states. Think of Florida. I mean, it's crazy for them.
Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, the Gulf states across the border are all red,
exactly.
Much,
yeah, exactly. So they said we'll keep it available till the end of July, and then last week, a couple of days before the end of July, they said actually, we will keep it going till the end of the program, and the end of the program actually ends at the end of September next year. But what's happening is because those satellites and the data processing centers that collate the data and then make it put it into a digestible form for scientists and everyone to look at, they're getting outdated. So they've been launching more up-to-date satellites. There's one going up. There's one that went up, I think, in 2024. There's another going up in 2026. I think they have to keep making this information available because we are getting worse storms, and we do need to be able to have this information so that we can prepare, so that we can be as safe as possible.
Well, there's a lot of the business community that depends on this. There are fisheries that depend on it. There are a bunch of business communities along the Gulf, as you said. I mean, so if you care only about the oil industry, which sort of is where the administration has its heart, there are plenty of oil rigs and plenty of oil interests. I mean, these refining areas are down there along the Gulf Coast. It's so they're hurricane vulnerable, I guess is the point. And so that information is critical, even just to those businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. So this was a good about face. I mean, it was, no one could believe when they first said, we have this information, but we're not going to share it. Those days are over. I mean, why? That's
the
dumb.
idea also, although it seems like a quaint one now, because all of the things and institutions in Washington are supposed to be owned by the people, and the people are supposed to have access to a lot of it. Some of it they can't have access to for national security reasons, et cetera. But those are the people's satellites. The taxpayers pay for them. Mm-hmm. The data that comes down for climate, for weather, et cetera, we're paying for that information, and the government shouldn't suppress it.
Exactly.
So for a philosophical agenda or for any other reason. That's great to have that coming back. Well, you've not disappointed. You brought us some good news. I can't believe it. Yeah, these seem like grim times, but you've done it. You can find Belinda Waymouth across social media. Weymouth is Waymouth. We really love our time with you, so thank you for making time for us today.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Appreciate it.
My
Belinda
pleasure.
Waymouth, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye.
That's It's the Planet Stupid for today.
More. It's the planet stupid. No. It's the planet stupid.
Next time, only on the Mark Thompson Show.
I loved it. Little good
Yeah.
news. Yeah. Little jump in the middle.
It's all right.
Hey, I wanted to welcome to our Patreon community, Frederick Hang. Come on. Hey, it's a big shout out. Thank you for joining us.
Hi,
I get these little pings on my phone when somebody joins our Patreon community.
Mhm.
And so I give you the big shout out.
shout out.
Yeah, and also to Richard Sandoval. Come on. Big shout out to you,
Big
Richard.
shout
Thank
out.
you for your monthly support of the show. We are crowdfunded, so appreciate the crowd that does fund. Really, we're on the air because of our Patreon and PayPal supporters. I also want to go through PayPal. I will, and mention those who have jumped on board there. There are many people who have been longtime PayPal and Patreon supporters, and you're the reason we're here, and we want to update the scroll with everybody's name. We do it monthly to include all of you. So thank you so very much. If you want to support, if you want to join that community that supports us, the MarkThompsonShow.com. Go to that web address, themarkthompsonshow.com. You can click through to Patreon or PayPal, but you don't even need to do that. Under all of our videos, there are Patreon and PayPal links that will take you right to the areas that you can sign up and be part of our community. So really do appreciate that. I'd like to, give it a mention every show. Quickly on Albert's birthday, I say this in the, I know we're late, but Luis says with a $5 super chat, the Ice Capades now playing at the Home Depot, swap meets, quinceañeras, and a taco stand near you, starring stupid man himself, Dean Cain. Not a Dean Cain fan, and Dean has now embraced the darkness of arresting people who are looking for day work and who are celebrating their quinceañera or their high school graduation. Calvin Wong, the shadow producer of the show, says blatant criminal conspiracy, obstruction of justice, witness tampering. Oh, that's on the Blanche meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell. If you want to know more about that, if you missed any part of it, the first hour of the show, we talked about it with former pardon attorney for the U.S., Liz Oyer. She was brilliant and wonderful. That was a great conversation. In the new Trump era, says Uncle Jim 99, the new Trump era census, population of California, excluding illegals, is 11,780. I get it. I get it. Yeah. And Bob Handy 91, how about it? $25 super chat for Albert. Hats off to Mark and Kim for the show. And say it again, Albert, for me in the Tagalog.
Maligayang kaarawan.
It's Molly what?
Maligayang kaarawan.
I love it. Maligayang kaarawan. Yes. Well, Albert, a maligayang kaarawan to you. And Bob Handy, thank you so much for that. Love to you, Albert. Have a great day.
Happy birthday, Albert.
Happy
Thank
birthday,
you.
Albert.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
The After Party Live is going on the After Party Live channel next with Kim.
Bye-bye.
Albert, enjoy your day, but get your work done first. Until tomorrow. Bye-bye.